Hailing back from the days of Medarot R on the PS1 in 1999, and best known for his place on Team Kenya in the World Robattle Championship of the anime, it is GOG00 Goriongo, with the kits of Hammer, Double Power Hammer, Wheeled Legs, and the leg ability of Heavy Arms, which buffs all leg stats, minus armor and heavy limit, for every heavy part that he has equipped. Now, Goriongo is not just a model that people have been begging for and hoping for quite some time in the lifetime of Medarot S's life, in its nearly 4 years, but also is a model that people have been hoping for from the anime primarily and what he brings to the table. And being a triple heavy, high-speed mono wheel type, he most certainly did not disappoint, even if he is an event reward for how he's earned, as a model that can bring a lot of pain and a lot of collateral damage to the table. Hammer on the head part is a conventional melee skill that is a full AoE, meaning it will damage all 4 parts evenly and spread the damage across all targets equally. Or, of course, if the target is lacking 4 parts and it's, say, 3 or 2 instead, will spread the damage equally across however many parts are still active. The only time this does not apply, however, is if the enemy has conceal or is being soaked by a shield, where in that case all the damage will be sponged to that one particular part it's targeting or is intercepting the blow. However, hammers also have another new use thanks to the silent leader mechanic, and that is flushing out enemy leaders, as AoE skills by damaging the head part will help determine who is the enemy leader or who isn't, just by simply smacking them and punching them as hard as you can. Power Hammer on both arms are basically just a stronger version of the regular hammer, but instead pack a times 1.5 damage bonus as long as Goriongo's legs remain intact. Of course, on the drawback of this higher power, mean that he will be essentially blind, with a very low heat and cool at about low to mid 400s, and a success of just barely 500 at best. He's going to be taking a lot of blind swings on top of that. In addition to this, Power Hammer will also guarantee that he will not be able to dodge or defend while in his cooldown as a penalty. Wheeled Legs also mean that he'll have pretty decent coverage and have very high base speed, but when it comes to terrain compatibility is where he starts to fall off, unfortunately, as Wheeled Legs tend to have really only 2 terrains that they're good on at best, and that's including Cyber, which everybody gets S rank on no matter what. So Goriongo will be particularly picky on what terrain that he fights on, but he actually makes up for this remarkably well, not just with his kit, but also with his leg ability, so that on terrains that he is good at, he actually can make himself a very, very dangerous threat the longer he's allowed on the field, and that is thanks to the leg ability of Heavy Arms. On the topic of his leg stats, though, as you see here, he is packing a relatively lower base speed at about 744, an evade of 490, barely 500 there for his evade is definitely not great, as it does mean that he definitely will not be dodging or grazing a lot of attacks, if any at all, unfortunately. A melee resist of 1222 is really good though, as expected of a melee fighter like himself. He can most certainly hold his own up close and personal, but a shoot resist of 704 is not the greatest when it comes to what he brings to the table. But let me assure you and say these are only his base stats before any modifiers are brought into effect. Heavy Arms, however, grants an additional 10% bonus to every stat, minus armor and heavy limit, for every heavy part he has equipped. And given that, look at that, he's packing 3 heavy parts and a heavy support of 3 on his legs, means that realistically, when I did the math, his leg stats are actually going to be looking closer to almost 1800 for that melee resist, just shy of 900, almost 1,000 for that base mobility. His evade will probably shoot up closer to about 700 or so, and his shoot resist closer to about 1,000, so he can most certainly make that back remarkably well and keep himself well balanced on the field. Armor he's doing pretty solid on at about 4,000 for the head, about 3,500 for the right arm, 3,100 for the left, and legs also at 3,500. So pretty solidly healthy and very bulky HP pool there as well, even if he is a very overly aggressive collateral damage fighter while on the field. All this being said though, as a pure set score, I still do have to rate him a pretty well-rounded 7.5 out of 10. Even though in the past I used to grade AoE types like him pretty harshly, given that AoE attacks now have viability thanks to Silent Leader, and the fact that he makes up for it pretty well thanks to Heavy Arms on his legs, he actually can hold his own as a multi-target hitter decently well without any major support. However, given that Power Hammer on both arms will leave him wide open to cooldown punish, so that anyone that does come after him, or if the hit is tanked by a shield, will be able to counter him relatively quickly if he isn't fast enough on his cooldown. As mixed parts, though, on the other hand, I do have to rate him just a little bit higher at an 8 out of 10. Primarily that even though Hammer and Double Power Hammer is slightly redundant, again, he is able to kind of make it back and forgive it to a point, thanks to Silent Leader being implemented as a permanent mechanic in the game. And of course, wheeled legs with heavy arms and triple heavy slot on that is always openly welcome, as it does mean that despite being just a little bit more expensive to raise than other wheeled legs, the heavy arms leg ability, if it is fully capped, does grant him the ability to comp those slightly lower stats with even better ones. A word of warning though, because he is triple heavy on all three of his parts and his legs, do exercise caution if you are fighting anyone that is using a gravity attribute attack, whether that means break hammer, or break rush, or anything of the like, because one hit from those will absolutely put this gorilla down a lot faster than intended, and absolutely break, pun intended, any intent or hope he has of laying waste to the enemy side.